Hey everyone, it's Jordan from Fish Keeping Made Easy, and today we are going to talk about the hammer coral. Now, the hammers belong to the Euphyllia family, same as torches and frog spawns, so the hammer coral is a really popular coral as it gives off the appearance and has a similar movement to a soft coral. The hammer coral has always been a coral that I've always liked. It's one of those corals that before I was ever into reefing, I remembered the name because I liked how they looked and I liked how they moved, and they come in all these different really cool colours. And I was told by another colleague that I had that they're actually really quite easy to look after, and this always just stuck in the back of my mind. So when I got my first reef tank, a hammer coral was definitely one of the first things I was going to put into it. Although it may look like a soft coral, it's actually a large polyp stony coral, which is an LPS coral. It has a sharp calcium carbonate based skeleton, and it also has these cool soft polyps which kind of look like little hammers, which is obviously where it gets its name from. Now, I think when people hear the term stony coral, they automatically start to worry about dosing and water quality, but the hammer coral is probably one of the best beginner LPS corals you can go with. Now, obviously it would benefit from dosing things such as calcium, but in general, those elements like calcium, magnesium and things are already in your water, so it's perfectly fine just to replenish these with regular water changes. So people tend to ask how quickly and how big this coral grows, as it is quite renowned for growing quite quickly and for growing quite big. So I started with a single head around 6 or 7 months ago, and now it has 3 heads. So I would say it grows a new kind of head every couple of months, and the heads themselves grow quite considerably over that time. I have what would be described as a branching hammer, so all the little heads branch out from the skeleton like a tree. These are supposed to be a little more hardier, and they also grow a little bit better as well. You also get what people would call a wall hammer, which is basically just a hammer that's skeleton looks like a little wall. So I think the number one question that people tend to ask about hammers is, what are the lighting requirements, what are the flow requirements, and where exactly would you place it in your aquarium? Well, lighting wise, I have mine on for around 6 hours a day. The coral is located pretty close to the surface and is more or less kind of directly under the light. However, I am using an Acru nano light that has a mixture of blues and whites, but I only ever tend to use the blue and white together because I have to manually switch on the blues, so I don't have like 2 hours of blues in the morning and 2 hours of blues in the evening. From this, I would suggest that hammers do well in sort of a medium light, given the fact my light is not quote unquote a marine light. In terms of flow, I would suggest sort of a medium kind of flow. As long as they're kind of swaying in the water, it should kind of be okay. If the flow is too high, you'll probably see them retract, and you can see that they're quite stressed out and uncomfortable. And if the flow is not high enough, you're probably going to see the same sort of idea. But keep in mind, when it comes to lighting and flow, some things can be quite subjective. It's not like everyone's using the same equipment, so what one person might consider high light might be low light to someone else, and what someone might consider high flow might be low flow to someone else. So always keep this in mind to kind of just experiment with your corals, put them in different places, put them under different conditions and see how they react. If they are reacting in a different way to what you'd expect to different conditions, then it might be fine. You know, if you're quote unquote keeping them in the wrong conditions but they seem to be thriving, just keep them in that. Each coral can be different and they do tend to have their own little personalities. So in a nutshell, you basically want to keep them in a well lit area with a good amount of flow that at least has them swaying in the water. You also have to take into consideration that they do have sweeping tentacles that come out in the evening, and these can sting other corals, so ensuring they're not too close to other corals is something I would recommend. A lot of people ask about keeping hammers together. Well, having them close by is kind of at your own risk. They definitely are trying to sting each other, but some people say they're pretty resistant. Torches and other corals in the same family, it's kind of the same story. It's all at your own risk, but you do have to remember that this is still a source of stress, so it can weaken the coral, making it more susceptible to other issues. So finally, let's talk about feeding. Now, they are mainly photosynthetic, but they can eat foods. Now, from my own personal experience, I never directly feed mine. I do feed my clowns small foods like lobster and fish eggs and red plankton and mysis shrimp and stuff like that, and I do believe that they do catch bits of that here and there. However, I don't think it's actually essential. In the 7 months that I've had mine, I've never once directly fed them, and I have heard a lot of other people saying that they don't feed them either, so I'm going to say it's not essential. If you really want to feed them, you can feed them, but yeah, it's not something that I feel is essential in any way. So to sum up this video, would I recommend the hammer coral for a beginner? Yes, I would definitely recommend the hammer coral for a beginner. In the 7 months that I've had this coral, I've never once had an issue with it. It grows really quickly and it really has no demand or requirements that I feel I have to go out the way and provide. So thank you for watching. I just wanted to make an easy guide, a beginner's guide for the hammer coral, and I want to do this for a lot of the other corals that I've kept, as I feel like I've had a lot of success with these, and I want other people to realise that a lot of these corals are really easy to keep, and I want more people to get into the reefing hobby. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.